Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you can see me. I can see Carson's there. Hi. My name is Joji and this is my knitting journal. Today is Monday, September 27, and this is a live version. So if you are watching live, hello, you'll be able to chat with everyone present in the chat room. And if you're seeing this recorded, because I'm going to save this video to YouTube, then you will probably see that this is a different format, that I'm reading people's comments, if there are any, or answering any questions that people may have. So I hope that that's fine. I can see that there are friends from Florida and Germany and DC, and a lot of I can see Nash there. Thanks, Carson, for helping out. Hi, everyone. I can see more people joining in from Poland, from Italy, from Denver. Yay! So these live versions of or editions of the journal are because we are having our fall knit along this year, and because it's our 10th anniversary, I'm going to do a live video every Monday at 2 p.m. So our journals are going to be in this format for a total of 6 weeks. This is week number 2. So thank you all for joining. Hi. Okay, it's week number 2 of the fall knit along. I don't know if there are any participants. I can see Nash and Carson. So some of my moderators are online. I came to the forum today to see how things are going, and things are going super beautifully. There are tons of works in progress. We have some finished objects already. Of course, the biggest group of finished objects belong to the team small projects. So if you want to go check that out on Ravelry, our group is Designs by Joji, and you can check out the finished object threads, and you'll see that there are a lot of beanies and some mittens and some cowls finished already. There are a few shawls already finished, mostly smaller shawls. I think that I saw a hipster, a Venezia for sure. I don't know if I can remember another shawl. Karen says, I finished my storm and started some me time. So remember that you can, you should go to the finished object thread and post your projects so you can participate in the prizes that we'll be drawing soon. Elizabeth says, I appreciate the live chats because I know we'll focus on my many Joji needs. Signed up in all the categories, which is a bit ridiculous. I don't think it's ridiculous. If you're having fun, then it really doesn't matter if you finish them super soon or if you have to finish them, later or even next year. So that's what's going on in the knit along. It's a great time of the year. I can say that here in Argentina, we are moving into the springtime as opposed to the fall. Today is kind of cloudy and kind of cold, but yesterday it was very warm and I got to wear my shorts and my sandals for the first time here in Argentina this year, which was nice. Julie, hi. So I'm going to start talking about what I'm working on. Everyone's in the chat room talking about their projects, how they are enjoying it, how they're turning out. Okay. So here I have been knitting a little bit, mostly at the beginning of last week. And then I started to work on other things, but I don't know if you remember from my previous journal that I showed you this sweater that I was working on, and now it's finished. one of the sleeves is inside out. I finished it and it's blocked, and now you can see it better. I think it was kind of wrinkled last time I showed it. And so this is the pullover that I was working when I went on my trip to the US. I called it Marble Mount, or I will call it Marble Mount. It's a future design. It's a circular yoke sweater with some lace details and some increases, some down increases. This is worked in fingering weight yarn. The yarn that I used is from a dyer called Sweet Fiber, and she's also in the Pacific Northwest, the same area that I visited, but she's in Canada, not in the US. And the yarn is called Cashmerino 20, and the color is called Charcoal. So I blocked it. It fits very well. The sizing worked well. I want this to be a not so relaxed or not so oversized pullover so that I can wear it with baggy jeans. Hi everyone who's saying hi from Buenos Aires, from Peru. So I need to now write this pattern. I don't think it will be difficult to write. I normally write a draft for my size, which is usually a medium. And then I transform my notes to smaller and bigger sizes. So the notes for my sample are ready, and I don't expect this design to be a super complicated one. Some of you were asking me if I had alternated skeins when I showed it last week. I didn't, and it worked beautifully. I still have to close this little hole there. What else can I tell you about this sweater? I think, and I named it Marble Mount, inspired by one of the places where we stayed at when we were there in the Pacific Northwest. My voice is a little rough today. So I have one finished object for today, which is great. Huge accomplishment this year to get some finished objects out. Then probably I should tell you that I'm wearing my staple linen top. I'm going to take this off so you can see it better. This is one of my patterns. I saw that some of you are making this. Mine is made out of linen from Espace Tricot, and the gauge is quite open. So I like to wear mine with a tank top or a camisole underneath. And yeah, so I'm wearing that today, my linen top. Carson's packing hers to go to Florida. This is a great top for the summer. I think I was too optimistic today, thinking that I could wear just this. So then I had to throw a cardigan on top, but I wanted to wear one of the designs that I saw people were knitting on the knit along. So there you go. This is the staple linen top. You know, I normally wear them, but I don't usually have my designs on when I record the journal. So today I thought, yeah, it was a good opportunity. Elizabeth says, just realized that would be so cute as a sweater set, maybe do a matching cardi. I think that's a great idea. I'm trying to think if I have any patterns that people could use to match with this that are already out there. This is kind of a sport weight, I think, kind of a sport weight linen. So you could do like an Amy cardigan in linen and pair it with the staple linen top. So you could knit both in matching yarns, so you wouldn't have to wait for a new pattern. I think that would look okay. And probably, hi Marila, so nice to see you. And probably you wouldn't have to change yarn. Probably the gauge are very similar. Hi, Shayla, and everyone else saying hi. Okay, what else I want to share? My mom came to visit yesterday, and she has been helping me to knit this cardigan that you've seen a few times. This is made using my friend Ale's yarn. Her brand is called Pura Hilados. And this specific base is called Abrigo. So this is Pura Abrigo. And it's this is my usual stitch pattern stockinette, and half twisted or a twisted rib. I have already blocked the body of the sweater, so you can see that there's more drape, but we haven't yet blocked the sleeves, so they're a bit tighter than they'll be once it's blocked. It's a V-neck. It has a drop shoulder. And what else can I say about this sweater? I love the yarn. Let me see if I can get up. It has a side vent. You can see there, a side vent. And I still have to add the button bands here to the front. But otherwise, it's almost ready. I think I'll pick up the stitches for the button bands maybe tonight. And then I'll also proceed to write the pattern for this one. I really like it. My friend Ale uses all Argentine bases. So the entire thing has been made in Argentina. This is Argentine sheep. It was spun in Argentine mills. Then it was hand-dyed in Argentina, and it was designed and knitted in Argentina. So it's a super Argentine project. And the base Abrigo is kind of like a rustic look, but it's soft. It's 100% wool. I don't think that it's breed specific, so it's not like Corriedale or Merino. Carla says we can test knit in Argentina too, for sure. And the base for this yarn is gray, so all of her colors, or most of them, are over dyed on a gray base. So I don't know how well you can see. I'm going to compare it to another hot pink yarn that I'm knitting, and you'll see clearly what I mean. The Pura color is a lot more muted, even though it was dyed in magenta. Probably my seam should be on my shoulder. It's a lot more muted, this one, than this hot pink yarn that has been dyed on a white base. So all the colors from this yarn are a little bit more muted. And also, this yarn goes a very long way. It's a boxy cardigan. It's a decade weight yarn. And I think that we might have to open the 5th skein to go and make the button band. Shayla says, it's super muted but pretty. Pink is always the answer. There are so many pink lovers. I like pink. I like to wear pink in my life, but when I use pink for my designs, I usually feel like, oh, I don't know. I second guess myself. But I'm glad I asked Ale to make a pink color for me so that people remember her yarn more than if I ask like a gray or other muted colors that I normally use. So that's an almost finished project. Things are going really well design-wise here. And my other work in progress right now is a new one. I showed you this yarn last Monday. There's some noise at home. There's a lot happening today. I'm facing our patio, and we have workers and a contractor coming to tidy up a little bit. Now that it's getting warmer, we'd like to spend some more time outside, so we decided to paint our patio walls. Not all of the patio, but the area where we spend most of the time. So there's a contractor who's coming and like cleaning the walls and preparing them for paint. So there will be a little bit of noise. So last week I showed you I had received a gift from Sarah. She's the owner and the buyer behind a new company called The Lamb and Kid, and she's based out in Bainbridge Island, Washington State. And she gifted me these 4 different yarns. So these 2 are the same base, and these 2 are the same base too, her mohair. And I'm going to tell you the names of the colors. I added them to my Instagram post. So the magenta is called Scrunchy. It's blowing up a little bit, but it's called Scrunchy. And the navy blue is called Sleepover. And so the thicker yarn, this one, is called Tad, and it's 65% yak, 35% cashmere, 150 yards per 50 grams. So Carson says pink and blue. I don't even know you anymore. I have used pink and blue before, Carson. I think so. Anyway, this feels like a decay almost. The yardage is more, it corresponds, give me a sec, I'll ask them to be a bit not so loud. Chicos, estoy grabando un programa en vivo. ¿Podrán hacer un segundito de silencio? Gracias, gracias. No, por favor, no. Tengo para media horita más o menos. Gracias. I had to go tell them because they were going to pressure wash my walls. So I had to ask them to postpone that for like a half hour. It would have been interesting to hear that noise going off. Anyway, where was I? So the yardage is comparable to a sport weight yarn, but I feel like this is more like a decay weight. And I am holding it double-stranded together with the mohair, and I'm using 5mm needles. So it definitely feels like a worsted weight gauge, and I'm using a larger needle. I'm using US 8 or 5mm needles. So what am I doing is I am holding the two of the same colors together, then a thicker base in one of the color, and then the mohair in another color, then both of the pink colors together, and then pink thick and blue mohair together. And I am striping these 4 combinations throughout the cardigan. Elizabeth says, don't worry, we can't hear it. I promise you would have heard the pressure washer on my walls. But they are very kind. They'll just wait for half hour until I'm done with the live chat. They have been working with us at home for many years, so they know sometimes I need to ask them to wait a little bit. So the cardigan that I designed is quite simple. You can see how nice the stripes are looking. I don't know if you remember that I shared that I don't have enough yarn of any of the colors to actually make a sweater entirely out of that like a single color. So I had to use them together if I wanted to make a bigger project. And I first thought I would do like regular stripes, but then I thought, since I was already double stranding because I was holding the mohair with the other yarn, I could switch the yarn. And also I could do like different lengths for all the stripes. So I could do like a random striping effect for the body. So I cast on here at the back neck, and I cast on some stitches for this little shoulder seam detail. I don't know if you can see that. And then I'm increasing stitches at each side of this band. And also I'm increasing a few stitches at the front for a slight V-neck. So this is the effect that is happening right now. It's growing fast because I'm on 5mm needles, so it's growing fast. I never liked to work with more than one ball at the same time, and now I'm working with 4 balls of yarn because I'm carrying all the colors I am not using up the side so that I don't have to weave in so many ends. So, I have to work with more than one ball at the same time, when you have to alternate skeins for hand-dyed yarn, or when you hold 2 strands together, but I don't prefer it. So even though it's going fast, I am not 100% comfortable because I have to keep my balls from tangling all the time. So I think that if I could, like if I was doing like a plain sweater, this would fly off the needles. But by Marila. But it's going really fast, and I always enjoy making things out of, finding ways to use the yarn that I have or the stash that I have in projects that one would normally think I don't have enough yarn for that. That is one of the classes that I used to teach, how to use your stash. So how to combine the yarns that you already have in a way that so that they give you more yardage, or they give you enough amount to make this cardigan or this large shawl that you want to, but you're short of maybe 1 or 2 skeins. Anyway, that's what I was thinking. I am going to write a sequence, like a suggested sequence for the stripes, so that sometimes I don't want to think about what's the next stripe. I just want someone to tell me, the first stripe is 10 rows, the second stripe is 2 rows, the third 6, etc., etc. But people could do whatever stripe combination they fancy. So there's a slight, I have already joined at the underarm. So there's a slight armhole shaping, very subtle there. You can see it now. And then the other detail that I'm going to add, this is going to have like a shallow satin sleeve. Sorry, I'm going to turn off these notifications now also. No, I can't do that. Oh, the beauty of going live. Okay, I won't be able to cancel those notifications, so sorry about the noise. Where was I? It's going to have a shallow sleeve cap, so a shallow satin sleeve. A satin sleeve is when there's some shaping for the underarm, and the shoulders are not as wide as the cardigan that I was trying on before. Remember the cardigan, the pink cardigan, I had the shoulder seams come to the middle of my arm. This one will have not so wide shoulder line, and it will have like a shallow satin sleeve shaping for the top of the sleeve. Okay, Sheila says it can be fussy. I don't prefer it either. I think she's referring to using multiple balls on the same project. People like the combination, pink and blue. I am a fan of the exact recipe. Elise says, that's what I'm doing, just knit with all the yarns to make a project. It makes me incredibly happy to know that I have the skills to use certain resources or certain materials. Of course, sometimes I like to just get a handful of yarn and know that I have way more than I can possibly need and have the freedom to design whatever I want. But at the same time, I like to know that because I know how to knit and I know how to manage my materials, I can adjust and I can modify and I can be creative to actually make the most of the things that I already own without spending more. One of the projects that made me the happiest when I was knitting is it's a blanket that actually was gifted to my friend Carson, who's online now. And I had this big basket of leftover yarns and they were in all colors, but you know, guys, that the colors that I need the most are gray and black and some naturals. And so I needed an entire blanket holding strands of these leftovers together, and each and every bit of yarn was special, but also I had paid a lot of money for that yardage that was left. I don't like to think that I open like an extra skein and whatever's left is waste. I like to think that it's just materials for a new project somehow. So in that blanket contains materials for countless projects that went through my hands. And you know, it's super delicious yarn and all the colors matched together. And when I looked at the finished object, I couldn't possibly call it like a leftover blanket because I thought it looked like well put together. So because I had managed the way that I was putting those colors together, I was left with an object that perhaps someone would have bought a kit for, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's what I did with this one. I only have 150 grams of each of the colors, so I only have 150 grams of the pink and the blue, but I think I'll have plenty to finish this cardigan. It won't be too long. So yeah, and then the other thing that I would add is, or that I thought I would add to give this sweater a little bit more like a twist, something that is not just a striped cardigan, a regular striped cardigan, is I'm going to add a facing to the front. So the facing is going to be added once I finish the entire thing. And I'm going to sort of like add the contrary, or not the contrary, but a complementary color to each stripe. So for example, when I need the blue, my facing is going to be one of these marls. When I join the facing to this marl, my facing is going to be either pink or blue. I have to figure out what's the best combination or what's the best opposite to each. So you'll get like a contrasting facing that looks kind of like almost if you folded the sweater, you would find like the opposite of that color. Let's see how it looks. Perhaps when I start doing that, it looks terrible and it completely ruins the look of the sweater. And when you see the finished pattern, it has a plain facing or not facing at all. We'll see. But that was my original plan for this design. I love you too. Do you also mix different weights? So going to the blanket for Carson, I was triple stranding my fingering weight yarn throughout most of the blanket, but I also used one strand of worsted and one strand of fingering weight sometimes, or sometimes one strand of a sport weight and a DK. I wasn't very worried about getting the perfect gauge. Some yarns were slightly thicker than the other, but I was either triple stranding the fingering weight or combining fingering with DK or worsted weight. And in some sections, there's also some mohair thrown in. Chateau de Tricot says, one of my extra large Pampa buckets is totally full of leftovers, and I have already knit one sweater from it. So that's fantastic. I love leftover projects. For so long, I've said that I'll design something for leftovers, and I never do. But there are really fantastic designs out there for leftovers. I always say that I'll do something about mine, but especially this year, my designs have been slowly getting out there, but they are getting out there. They are. Thanks for sharing your design process. I always like sharing my design process. I think it makes things like you can like something without knowing anything about it, but if you like something when it comes out and you know the backstory of it, or you know the inspiration behind the design, or you know how I struggled to go through X or Y, how I solved certain aspects of a finished pattern, then I think that it may make you like those designs a little bit more. Sarah says, all my leftovers go into hexagons that I make into charity donations, blankets and hats. Do you make them in crochet like granny squares? I'm going to try to cancel those notifications again. Let's see if I can. No. I have a new computer. That's why I'm not able to cancel my notifications today. I need to find how to do that in my new MacBook. Normally I would, click, and then you don't hear those sounds anymore, but we'll have notifications today. I'm excited to hear you made a blanket out of your leftovers. I am almost finished with a granny square blanket. I'm crocheting from my leftovers. Some of the yarn is a few years old, but I love it. And then Sarah says that Sarah was making the hexagons for charity donations. She says she mixes crochet and knitting depending on the mood, mostly crocheting though. Neil says, I am currently imagining your newspaper pullover in leftovers, one main color throughout and leftovers for the stripes. That sounds fantastic. I think that when you hold one color throughout the entire project, so let's say you hold white, which is like a super, how do I say this? It's a color that brings the other colors together in a very neutral way, and also it creates, so it transforms each of the colors you pair it with into a softer color. So let's say you stripe, you take a sweater and you stripe the sweater throughout, and you use a lot of leftovers, and in between those colors you always add a little white stripe, or in the case of the brioche newspaper pullover, you hold one strand of white throughout the body, and then you change the colors as your sweater, in the different bands of the sweater. That is the great way to make something very cohesive and to keep it from looking like it's an odd mix of colors. When you keep one color constant throughout the entire project, then everything looks a lot more planned out than just randomly picking colors from your basket and adding them willy-nilly. Or you can marl, you can hold all your leftovers and marl a strand of whatever color. When I do that, I tend to prefer a neutral, like white or gray or black. And that way, I am using the mohair paired with the Todd, with the heavier weight, not only because they match and they came from the same dyer and it makes sense that they are in my project together, but also because when I pair the mohair with these, I can use a larger needle because my gauge gets bigger. It's a bigger stitch. And therefore, I get more yardage out of the thread, if you know what I mean. If I was using just the thread, my gauge would be tighter or smaller, and then I would need more yards of this to finish a sweater. But because I am pairing it with mohair, then my yards go a longer way. So hi to everyone who's now joining. I'm talking about my current design and work in progress, and how I'm managing the yarns that I'm using that were given to me by the Land Bank Kid. And if the video will be saved, so if you want to go back and see all I said about it, then it will be saved on YouTube. Okay, so that is my only work in progress, I would say, at the moment. I'm needing a pair of socks, but they are quite boring and I haven't made any progress on them. And also I am still working on a color work cardigan that I'm making using Tani's Fiber Arts yarns, but I haven't made any progress since last time I showed it. So I think I'll wait to show it to you once something happens on that design. Otherwise, it's just telling you, yeah, I'm still working on this, but I haven't made any progress. Speaking of difficulties when designing, I'm looking at a sweater that it's hanging here. Sorry about that, the movement. It's hanging here on my wall, and this one hasn't been published yet. I got a comment on YouTube. I had this sweater hanging from the wooden door or the wooden panel behind me in a few episodes of my journal. This is a pattern that I am currently writing, and it hasn't been published. Some people are looking for it on Ravelry, and I'm sorry that sometimes I show things and then a long time goes by before they are ready. But this pullover is called May Song, or will be called May Song as soon as I finish writing it, but it's going to take me a long time. This one is a hard one to write. I don't think that I have any charts to show you, but it's great to knit. I think that it will be great to knit, but it's not easy to write at all. There's an all over stitch pattern all over the body. And also there's a lot happening here on the neckline. All of these instructions have to be given stitch by stitch. And I published my patterns in 9 sizes usually, unless it's like a big oversized thing. And then the range is the same, but instead of having one size every 4 inches, sometimes I do like a small, medium, then a large, extra large, and then a 2X, 3X, and a 4X, 5X. So in that case, I have 4 or 5 sizes, but normally my patterns come out in 9 sizes. And this baby has a special chart for the top of the sweater for each size. And I always do this, and it's the worst thing that a designer could do. I've been doing this for the last 2 years, and I shouldn't. And every time I teach classes on designing, I tell my students, don't knit without taking notes. Like, don't think that you'll remember, because you won't. And even if it looks simple, then there will be something that you don't remember about it. And that's what I did with this sweater. I was very, probably I was either watching TV or like doing something else, and I knew what I wanted my sample to look like. So I kept knitting, and I didn't take notes, or I took notes and I forgot to like write down full sections of my notes. So when I tried to write the draft for this one, it was a mess. I couldn't remember a thing. Even the charts that I used to graph the pattern were wrong. And anyway, it's a mess. The draft is currently written for sizes small, medium, and extra large only. no, extra small, small, and medium only. And I think that this pattern will have to come out as 3 PDFs, one PDF for sizes extra small to medium, then another PDF for large to 2 extra large, and then another PDF for 3, 4, and 5 extra large sizes. Because otherwise there will be too many pages with charts at the end of the pattern, and it might be tricky to find your charts within those PDFs. And so what I did is I wrote the first PDF for the smallest sizes, and I asked 2 very close friends to take a look and see if they can follow the directions. It's not just making sure that the charts are correct, but also when I write my patterns, there's a sequence in which you have to knit your pieces in order to optimize the knitting. So there's an order in which you join pieces fewer times than if you would do them differently. So I just need to make sure that these instructions sort of make sense. And if they do, then I know that I just have to go and chart the other 6 sizes. And that is just a little bit labor intensive, but it's not a big deal. But if I write the entire thing and the entire thing doesn't make any sense, then all the work that I put into the charts is wasted because I had to do something else otherwise. So that is the long story to tell you that I brought this design back to life this week after coming back from my trip. I had to study what I had written before. I had to study my notes, go through the entire thing, chart a little bit more. And now I think that I'm okay. If I get feedback from my 2 friends, then this week I'll write the other sizes and they'll be ready to test soon. So that is the other bit of news about my design work during this week. And lastly, I am going to wind up these yarns to start a new design in collaboration with my friends from Neighborhood Fiber Company. Neighborhood Fiber Company is a company I adore. I've known for eons. And their yarn was, I think that the first yarn I bought the first time I ever visited the States. I always told the story. I'm going to tell it again. But anyway, Neighborhood Fiber Company is owned by my friend Carida. It's a thriving company in Baltimore or in the Baltimore area. And they are turning 15 years old this year. So they are celebrating and they are working on new yarns and bases and colors, and I am collaborating with them to make this new design. Hi, Vero. So the story about the Neighborhood Fiber Company is Lisa asks, what are those colorways? This is the rustic fingering. It's a single ply yarn. Their names usually are named after streets or parks or geographical places in their area. This is called Cross Street Market. It's a dusty pink. This is like a mauve gray, and it's called Shadow. And then the dark one is called Upton, and it's a dark charcoal gray. And I don't know if any of you remembers a cardigan called Lipstick that I published many years ago. And for that sweater, I used their Studio worsted yarn. And the name, I don't remember the colorway name, but it was a place. And I think that Carida said that color was inspired by a shade of lipstick that she wore. She now wears a lot of purple shades on her lips, but I think that I might have read that she was inspired by a certain shade of lipstick to create the color that I was using. And I was visiting a store called Nitty City in Manhattan, owned by a beautiful woman who's no longer with us, named Pearl. And it was my first time in the US, and I was very self-conscious, and I had been to other stores that were not so friendly with families with kids, or I don't know. I went to a store that was too snob, and I didn't feel that comfortable, so we left. My kids during that trip, they were 4 and 6, so just imagine how long ago this was. And we were traveling with our strollers, and when sometimes, those of you who are parents, they'll know what I'm talking about, but sometimes you just go into a store and you feel like you take up all the space with the strollers and the bags, and you're carrying things, and we are Argentine, so we are loud, and so we talk loud and people look at us and we feel more self-conscious. Vero says the color is called Charles Village. So we came into Nitty City, and the owner was so friendly and welcoming, and she asked us where we were from. And so I started browsing and looking at all the yarn, and they had Malabrigo, Madeline Tosh, Manos del Uruguay, and a lot of brands that I had only read about because it was my first time traveling to the States. And then there was this specific shelf with colorful yarn, but the colors were stunning. And there's something about their colors that makes me, a person who always picks muted colors, there's something about the colors in Neighborhood Fiber Company that just makes me want to grab their yarn among a sea of other yarns. Their colors are pure, bright. And I remember looking at that yarn, Charles Village. Thank you, Vero. It was like a cool, bright, almost neon red, but more towards the pink than towards the orange. And I look at the price and I thought, wow, yarn is so expensive, but their skeins were, at the time, they were 200 gram skeins. So they were pricey, but I could get away with just 2 skeins to make a sweater because I could try to make it work with only 400 grams. So that's what I bought in Nitty City during my first trip to the US. I bought the Neighborhood Fiber Studio worsted, Neighborhood Fiber Company Studio worsted in the Charles Village, and it later became the lipstick pattern with shorter sleeves because I didn't have enough yarn to make long sleeves. Anyway, I'm always happy to work with them. Caritas made, since then, she has made custom colors for me. She has really supported my work. She's been one of the dyers that we had make special colors for interpretations. So I have to wind this yarn up and start working on a new design with her yarn. And then I wanted to mention a few other things. It's not a super long journal today because I haven't been knitting a lot, but I was looking at the finished object thread today on Ravelry. And as I said, a lot of the finished objects belong to Sarah's team, so Team Small Projects. And there are a lot of them that are made out of some of my free patterns. And I wanted to mention them because I don't know if everyone watching the journal knows that I have a few free patterns that you can always use and that will be forever free. So they are Rafa's hat. I'm going to pull them up. Let's see. So this was a hat that I made for my friend Rafa, who took a lot of photos for me. He photographed a lot of my books, and sadly he's now living far away in Florida, closer to Nash. But this is a free pattern. It's called Rafa's hat, and you can find it on Ravelry. It's a DK weight hat. Then another great pattern that is free for the fall season is called the paid forward mittens. They're coming up. These are made using fingering weight yarn, and they have a longer cuff. Let me see if there are other photos. And these were designed. I like to put out free patterns every now and then to give back a little bit of all the love that I get from all of you. So I don't know if people remember that, but I thought I would give you a little reminder. Another pattern that so many of you have made is the Odyssey shawl. Let's see. This is the Odyssey shawl, and this is a DK weight design and DK weight shawl that is free forever on Ravelry. Another I can't talk and type. Can you talk and type? Another free pattern for a sweater that I published last year was inspired by my lockdown. It's called the All Together sweater. And it's also forever free on Ravelry. And then I'm not going to pull the rest up, but you can find a little lonely cable hat that is a beanie with a pretty cable. Then To Infinity and Beyond is a cowl. And then baby items that a lot of people needed countless times are called Felipe, a vest. That name was named after my nephew Felipe. And also the garter stitch baby cardigan, which used to be the garter stitch baby kimono. A lot of people also needed that many times. So you can go check those out. I know that patterns can be a big investment for many of you, and so those are always free, and I'm always so happy to know that you guys are enjoying them. Catherine's casting on the paid forward mittens. They would match well with the Change Your Mind hat. That is a great combination. Rafa says, Ana says, Rafa es tan guapo como el gorro. Rafa is as handsome as the beanie. I'll pass the compliments to my friend Rafa. I just made that hat for a friend whom has cancer. No, Mommy, the super simple summer sweater is not a free pattern. The free patterns are the ones that I mentioned just now. Then I also wanted to share that I've signed up for a new race. The running is one of the reasons why I'm not knitting as much this year, but it's also a good thing that I'm doing. I've been running on and off for many years. Some years I've done it more seriously and more organized than other years. This year, I shared with you that I really wanted to recover my body after spending last year in confinement. Last year was really hard for me, for my body too. We started lockdown in Argentina in March, and we weren't allowed truly freely until September, October. So that was almost 7 months of total lockdown, that and meaning that we couldn't even go out for a walk around the block. We could only be out if we were going to the supermarket or the pharmacy. My kids didn't see the street for months. They didn't see anyone. They didn't get on a car for half a year because we couldn't go anywhere. So my body really was damaged after that time. I felt that I was walking 300-400 meters and I got short of breath, and more than any extra weight that I might have gained, which wasn't a ton, I was really concerned about my inability to move in a way that I felt comfortable. And I felt that the comfort of the couch was not comfort anymore because my body was in pain. My butt used to hurt a lot. Sorry that I shared that, but I spent so much time sitting on the couch that my back and my butt used to hurt a lot, and I had acute pain, and I decided to do something about it. And for me, running was something that I had done before, that I knew something about, that I felt comfortable doing. So I decided to pick it up again this year in 2021. As soon as the new year started, I knew that that it was my opportunity to get back at it. So I've been running again more regularly since January, and I've signed up for Buenos Aires half marathon, and that's happening in October 10. And then I signed up for a trail race, my first mountain race, on November 5. I'm going to the mountains, and I'm going to run there in the mountains. For anyone who may be interested in knowing how I train for my running, I train myself, and I use the half marathon plan that you can find for free in the nikerunning.com website. It's a PDF, and I just follow the programs. The program asks you to run 3 or 4 times a week. Most of the workouts are short, and there's a long run every weekend. So it's a friendly schedule. It's something there are programs to get started on a half marathon program, but you can also follow a program to get ready to run 5 kilometers, which is a great distance to run and get ready for if you've never run before. That is what I did the first times that I started running. Maybe it took me about 8 weeks to go from running nothing to go to progress to running 5K. You can run any pace or any speed you want. Nobody tells you, nobody requires you to run fast. So I highly recommend trying their programs. And I share this because I've had a lot of feedback since I started sharing my running on Instagram. So I thought I would also share it here too, in case anyone's interested. Aneta says, Joji, I am running a marathon this Sunday. I think of food and all the eating while running long distance. What do you think of while running? That is a good question. I get super hungry when I run. I have never run a marathon distance. The longest that I have run is a half marathon distance, which takes me over 2 hours. And I think of all the food that I'm going to eat when I'm done. I love barbecue, so I usually schedule my husband to cook something delicious for me when I come home from those long runs. I carry some food with me when I run the long runs, and I try to bring food that I really like. So if it's energy bars or some kind of candy for energy, I try for it to be delicious. And then I like to listen to guided runs, which you can find also in the Nike app or other apps, where they tell you, things that you should be paying attention to while you're running, like your breathing or your posture. So I like to listen to that. I think of that. And then I also think of the place. I always think how lucky I am that I can move again, how lucky I am that I can go out. I just want to cry. I thank my body for, walking me places or running me places or jumping me places or climbing me places, because I don't take that for granted. We all are so lucky that we can move. So I think of that. And then often I'm just counting the kilometers, which I shouldn't, but I'm like, 2 more kilometers, 3 more kilometers, and then I'll be done. Or let's make it to that mark over there, and then I'll be done. So lots of things. I tend to listen to music because I need something to keep the pace. I probably could listen to audiobooks, but I might not always be paying attention to things when I'm running. Beth says, I've been working on Run Walk, which is great. People sharing their experiences with their lockdowns. Last year was so bad. And then Nash saying she's got to leave. Okay, and then the last thing I want to share with anyone watching from Buenos Aires is that I'm thinking of maybe working on a small knitting event or gathering for December this year, on December 4th, probably. So I haven't worked out details, but if you are free, I would ask you to save the date. I would love to have you participate. There's a space that I can use, and I'd love you to come join for some knitting inspiration, maybe some yarn shopping. I might be launching interpretations, and I will have printed copies here in Argentina. And there will be samples to look at, and coffee and pastries and things like that. So I'm still working on the details for that. Buenos Aires, December 4. And that's that. So I'm going to read the last few comments and questions to see if anyone has anything else to ask. Ursula says, I enjoy walking, and I did a 5 kilometers 3 to 4 times a week. Been ill, but I am working to getting back to 5 kilometers. Ursula, I hope that you recover soon. Walking is the best for your body. It's so much easier on your knees, and it's so peaceful to be able to walk and listen to things or chat with a friend. So 3 to 4 times a week, it's a lot of walking a week. Congratulations. I hope you can soon go back to that. Petra asks, is the Venezia shawl for beginners? Yes, I want to think that all of my designs and patterns are written in a way that if you are a beginner, you can follow the instructions carefully and you won't have any problems. Perhaps there are some sections that for more experienced knitters are more intuitive, but all the instructions for every pattern are there written, and any beginner can tackle any of my patterns. Did you get any yarn from Knitted Wheat in Portland on your visit? Catherine, this is a question by Catherine. No, I didn't, but you can go check out the things that I got in Portland in my previous video, because I showed all of the yarn that I came home with. Talia is finishing the body of her Elton cardigan. Banu says, great idea. I would love to come. Where would you post updates on the event? I will post them on my Instagram feed and stories. So if you are coming from abroad, I don't know how our borders will be. And I don't know that the event will be worth traveling internationally for. But yeah, everyone's welcome. Vero says, if they let me travel, I am there. Well, you can stay with me, Vero. If they let you travel, you can quarantine at home. Tina Brenneke, can you make it a video gathering so we can join, if not local? Unfortunately, I don't think that I'll be able to do the entire event, but most definitely I can do an Instagram and or a YouTube video during maybe half an hour so that everyone can join and we can do like a virtual interpretations, pre-release and all of that. Are you doing a knit along on the newspaper cardigan with brioche tutorials, perhaps? So the newspaper pullover, we're doing the fall knit along where you will see everyone working on it at the moment. It's an ongoing knit along, and I did not film my own tutorials, but I included links to the tutorials in the pattern, and those were the tutorials that I used to learn brioche when I was designing that. So they are very, very good, and I highly recommend them. Thank you for sharing your life with us. You inspire me. You are all inspiring to me too. So glad to catch you live. Banu says I'm in Buenos Aires, so yay. Who can we ask questions on specific patterns? You can do that to the email address that you'll find at the end of every pattern. And so I think that we come to the end of this live edition. If you liked it, I hope you can join me next Monday for week 3. I hope to have new things to share with you. And I can't wait to be back. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.